And so for all this talk of chaos, I just didn't see it, not from my perch.
But then when we moved down to the actual gates, absolute chaos from the beginning.
Three minutes after the blast, a U.S. drone records the catastrophic aftermath.
Not a single person has been held accountable. Our so-called leader can't seem to even utter their names in public, not even once. Mr. Biden has run his entire political campaign for 50 years as the family man. Well, I've got news for you, sir. The curtain has been lifting, and that campaign slogan will never work again. We have seen what's going on in your family, and even worse, we've seen how you've been treating us as Gold Star families. And there couldn't be anything more disgusting and cowardly than the way you have treated us. You are a disgrace to this nation. You have no business having ultimate command over our military, and I regret not saying that to your face when I had the opportunity in Dover. I felt it more important to bite my tongue, but I also had more important things on my mind at that time, like receiving my son's lifeless body stateside. While I stood there on the tarmac, watching you check your watch over and over again, all I wanted to do was shout out, "It's 2:30, asshole." But out of respect to the other grieving families, I bit my tongue once again. Well, as you could probably tell by now, I'm done biting my tongue. You, sir, stole their lives, their futures, their dreams, and have ripped apart 13 families. You cannot even man up and admit that.
Then we move to 2 weeks ago. We have Biden shouting in a press conference, "Name me one single objective that we set out to accomplish that we failed on. Name me one." In all of our history, not one.
Name me a single objective we've ever set out to accomplish that we failed on. Name me one in all of our history, not one.
I say to you, Mr. President, you got 13 pictures that we have all named. You got 13 that you did not accomplish. I know he can't name one of them without a card sitting in front of him or a teleprompter sitting in front of him. I say to him, resign. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Secretary Blinken, Secretary Lloyd, General Milley, you need to resign. Today is the date 2 years ago that we received our kids home at Dover. 2 years ago today, where we were disrespected with stories of Biden's son and him looking at his watch. And today, here we sit as their families, begging you, 2 years later, find these answers. Our veterans deserve it. The 22 a day cannot continue to happen because of these failures.
He volunteered for that second tour to go back to Afghanistan. Did you know that? He didn't have to go. I begged him not to go as his mama. I said, Ryan, stay. I'm getting ready to get married, and I want you to be there. He said, Mama, I've trained so hard. I'm ready to deploy at any time. And I said, son, be careful and come back home. So off he went, volunteering for the second deployment to Afghanistan for the non-combative evacuation operations in Kabul, Afghanistan in the month of August of 2021. They only sent 12 of those special operations men and women. I guess they needed to help all those Marines. But unfortunately, we lost our handsome 23-year-old son, along with the many 20-year-olds that sit at this table, Taylor being the eldest at 31.
What is your message to the President of the United States? We'll start with Christy.
I would like to know why the red flags were ignored. The descent cables, the sniper requests, the air support requests. I think it's to have transparency in all of it is really important to me.
Darren?
For me, I want them all to be grown men like our son was. Come forward, admit those mistakes, rectify the problem. We owe it to our sons and daughters that will come up through the military to know that their leadership has their back. This cannot and should not happen ever again.
Thank you. Kelly?
As my son, I want the president to do the next right thing. I want him to admit what he did, what he ignored. I want him to say their names, and I want this to never happen again.
Thank you. Paula?
I, too, want accountability from the executive office. I would also like to say that anyone that is running for office right now, make sure that they never make the same mistakes that this current office has made. Americans expect accountability, honesty, and to be able to trust our leaders to do exactly what they are told to do by the people. And that's what we expect on this next administration.
That's excellent. Herman?
I personally will pose a challenge to the president. I think our children, our sons and daughters, had more courage in their little fingers than this man has shown while he's been in office. So my challenge is tell the truth, all the truth to all of us, or get out of the way.
Alicia?
As mother to Hunter and mother to a current son who is serving in the Army, I request accountability, and I request for this not to happen again, because God forbid, without the planning and plans in place, that I receive another knock on my door for a mistake that they have already caused.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I would like all other evacuations of this type to be held from the Defense Department instead of the State Department and the White House. And I don't think we could change. To be honest with you, I think they had to do it again. They do it the exact same way. I don't think we've changed or we would change their chain of thoughts. But I would reiterate that, you know, they need to have 13 of these pictures in the Rose Garden at the White House and be honored by this administration. Period. Thank you.
I agree. Greg?
Acknowledge what happened that day. We have a lot of mentally, physically wounded servicemen and women that need support that we're not getting because we haven't acknowledged that day. We need to acknowledge that. The second part is say their names. They've earned it.
Thank you. Coral?
I don't think a Gold Star parent needs to be sitting in this seat and ask for answers. Since the beginning, they should not lie to us. We deserve to know the truth and not ask for the truth. And I want to hear Biden saying our kids' names. And I always said our kids because they were our kids.
Yeah. They were. Mark?
As Darren mentioned, I would love to see the president man up, admit this was a more political move on his part than it was military. This is not a game. It's cost our kids their lives. It changed 13 families and a nation of veterans forever. And if he's honest with himself and he feels he can't do this job, because we have active military in place right now, that scares the crap out of me for those guys to be under this leadership. If he can't be a leader, step aside and let somebody else do it.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
Again, as I had mentioned, I would ask him to, accept accountability and help those other veterans that we are close to that are really struggling or who have already taken their lives because of what happened. We don't need any more of that. And he needs to own up and acknowledge exactly what happened.
Thank you. And I know the nation's watching. I know the administration's watching. And I know the president will hear your voices. And I hope that he does respond to each of you, because you deserve it after everything you've been through over the past 2 years.